Charles Dongarra was a captain in the Gambino crime family who helped plan the murder of Albert Anastasia. Let's check him out. Welcome to OC Shorts, bringing you detailed historical snapshots of the American Mafia and other organised crime. Feel free to subscribe if you like that sort of thing. Today, we're going to take a quick look at Gambino captain Charles Dongarra, who was a key figure in the murder of Albert Anastasia. One of the largest myths around Charles Luciano was that he was the gunman who shot and killed feared mobster Umberto Valenti in August 1922. A few days before his death, Valenti had previously tried to murder Joe the Boss Masseria, who famously made a miraculous escape. And now, Joe the Boss Masseria wanted revenge. At 11:45 a.m. on August the 11th, Umberto Valenti was gunned down at the corner of 2nd Avenue and 12th Street. There was wild gunfire despite the crowded street, as several gunmen ambushed Valenti and his men. As Christian Cipollini writes in his excellent book, Lucky Luciano, Mysterious Tales of a Gangland Legend. Witnesses said one gunman of the lot remained cold, calculated and unrelenting, aiming carefully, undeterred by the ensuing chaos. The rounds hit Valenti in the chest, just shy of his heart. It was the coolest thing I ever saw, 19-year-old witness Jack Kahane said. People were shrieking and running in all directions, and this fellow calmly fired shot after shot. He did not move until he emptied his weapon. The gunman who killed Valenti was described as svelte, swarthy complexion, dark hair, and well-dressed. This description has often been the main reason for people to assume the shooter was a young Charlie Luciano. And this gangland myth has been retold in documentaries and TV shows such as Making of the Mob, New York. However, there is no concrete evidence to state that it was actually Charlie Luciano. What is rarely discussed is that another mobster who also matched the description was actually arrested and charged by the police for the Umberto Valenti murder. This man was Charles Dongarra. As one newspaper reported on the 30th of August, 19 days after the shooting. Joseph Bondi, 24, a salesman, 234 West 44th Street, and Charles Dongarra, 26, 201 1st Avenue, were arrested at 29th Street and 5th Avenue last night by Detectives Cassetti and Maron, charged with the shooting and killing of Umberto Valenti in a bootleggers feud August 11th last. Valenti was wanted by the police in connection with the attempted assassination of Joseph Masseria, his alleged rival rum runner. It appears that Charles Dongarra was never convicted for the murder, but it can be argued that he was even more of a closer match to the eyewitness description of a man with swarthy complexion and dark hair than Charlie Luciano. The murder of Umberto Valenti remains unsolved, and perhaps it was Charlie Luciano, which is a version of events that fits with a romanticised view of Luciano's history. Or perhaps both he and Dongarra were in the group of gunmen who ambushed Valenti. However, we mustn't discount the theory that it was Charles Dongarra and not Luciano who was the man who fired the fatal shots into the greatly feared Umberto Valenti. So, what do we know about Charles Dongarra? He was born in Palermo, Sicily on the 20th of March 1896. He was also known as Charles Dongarro and Rosario Dongara. The Federal Bureau of Narcotics listed Dongarra's criminal associates as Joe Riccobono, Joe Rayo, Joe Stracci, Anthony Bonacera, Joe Dotto, and Lucky Luciano. The FBN file on Dongarra would state of him, with Mafia associates has been a major narcotic trafficker and smuggler who supplied local peddlers in wholesale quantities. After 1931, Charles Dongarra was part of the Mangano Crime Family, which was later headed in 1951 by Albert Anastasia. Some sources state that Charles Dongarra was a captain under Albert Anastasia and was well respected. However, in 1957, Another captain by the name of Joseph Franco found out that Anastasia was planning to kill 3 influential members of his family: Joseph Riccobono, Joseph Biondo, and Charles Dongarra. Dongara and his associates decided to act first, as one informant told the FBI in the following document. Anastasia was going to kill Joseph Riccobono, Joseph Biondo, and Charles Dongarra. Joseph Franco, a captain in this family and close friend of Anastasia, learned of the plans to kill these 3 individuals and told them. Consequently, these 3 individuals, plus Andrew Alberti, Joseph Gallo from 34th Street between 2nd and 3rd Avenues, NYC, Steve Grimalta and Joe Cahill, not a member of the family but highly respected, got together and decided to kill Anastasia. Cahill and Grimalta were given the contract. It was known that Anastasia frequented the barbershop at the Park Sheraton Hotel, NYC. The guns were in the hotel room of Johnny Busso, a fighter and nephew of Johnny Connecticut, John Busso. Cahill and Grimalta went to the hotel and got the guns, shot Anastasia and caught subway and went home. Some time after the shooting, Joseph Riccobono telephoned the owner of the liquor store on 78th Street, NYC, who is at the present time the collector of Gambino's assessments, and told him that someone in his, Riccobono's family, had done the shooting without naming names. This liquor store owner knew all the captains, and he was to pass the word along. Riccobono advised Thomas Lucchese and Vito Genovese that someone in his family had killed Anastasia. Riccobono requested a meeting to be held so he could explain about the shooting. There was a meeting held in New Jersey, and those present were Lucchese, Vito Genovese, Riccobono, Joseph Biondo, Charles Curry from New Jersey, Tony Anastasia, Johnny Roberts, Thomas Rava, Carmine Galante, and numerous others. The meeting was held at Ritchie's farm, possibly Richie Boyardo, in New Jersey. Riccobono advised those at the meeting the reason Anastasia had been killed, without identifying the killers, and stated if he had been wrong in doing so, they could hold him responsible. At this meeting, in substance a trial, all responsible parties were pardoned, including Cahill and Grimalta. One of the informants who provided this information was Alfredo Sant'Antonio, who was a soldier in Dongara's crew. Sant'Antonio was later murdered on July 11th, 1963. Another FBI informant, Greg Scarpa, would state, "It was common talk in Brooklyn that Sant'Antonio was killed because he was cooperating with the government." After the Anastasia murder, Charles Dongarra remained a captain in the family now headed by Carlo Gambino. Under Gambino, Charles Dongarra had a large crew and included the likes of Joseph Piney Armone, Joseph N Gallo, Joseph Manfredi, Frank Gagliardi, Frank Luciano, and Alfred Sant'Antonio. Before his murder, Alfred Sant'Antonio would tell the FBI that Charles Dongarra spent the summers at a farm in Windham, New York, and that Joseph N. Gallo would perform the role of acting captain. The FBI file states, as previously reported, confidential informant advised that as of July 5th, 1963, Joseph Gallo from 34th Street, Manhattan, New York, was continuing to act as captain for Charles Dongarra, while Dongarra spent the summer in upstate New York. Informant advised that at the time Gallo had a number of associates in Baltimore and Philadelphia, and that he travelled to these cities frequently. Dongarra was captain in the Carlo Gambino family. By the early 1970s, Charles Dongarra was in ill health, as one newspaper reported. Gambino captain Charles Dongarra, according to his attorney, was just released from a hospital because of a leg operation. Besides, he's blind in one eye and can't see out of the other. With Joseph N. Gallo, now Carlo Gambino's consigliere since the mid-1960s, Dongara was succeeded as captain by Frankie Wops Gagliardi. I hope you found that interesting. Thanks for watching.